Let's see. Yes. So as far as Charger Challenge went, it was actually one of our better games we've had in a long time. We've only had 4 overtimes in the 18 years we've been doing this, and that was one of our overtimes. And then we actually went to the 4th round of the overtime, which is one of our most competitive we've done. So in my first time ever then, I actually did do 2nd place, and for the kids who participated, I gave you 3 B points as opposed to 10 B points for winning, because it was a really impressive showing. I know I told you I would put a bunch of frowning faces up there if we lost, but we didn't really lose. Like, it was a good competition, so I was not disappointed in how we did, so I did not really feel like a frowning face working there. Then on top of that, we had one of the kids in our competition who went and talked to the Globetrotter teachers today and showed really good sportsmanship and congratulated them on winning and stuff like that, which almost never happens. And so I was going to say, you get a winning ring, so go you, because they actually came to talk to me about it, and they're like, I can't believe this kid came and said things, so go you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being solid. Reese! Oh, and Reese, you are, and Shaw, you guys are alternates for the next one, so you are automatically in the next one.
When's the next
Just
one?
don't die again. Alright, Reese?
When's the next one?
We don't know. It'll be probably sometime in January, because we have to wait until this 9 weeks ends, and it'll be in January.
And did somebody already say the one?
That Storky kid did.
Is there only three a year?
4. The 4th 9 weeks we'll have 2. We'll have one at the very beginning and one at the very end.
Oh, because it was like kind of like.
Yeah, that math thing doesn't work out
Can
well.
you explain what?
Hi, Crawford.
I heard there was some cheating going on with the gold covers. That's what I heard.
Yeah, but no. The kid, I mean, that was just kids yelling and all the time and stuff like that. And plus, yeah, the claiming of them cheating wouldn't matter anyway because we got the answer wrong, so it doesn't matter.
That was true.
Yes.
What was the challenge?
So, I mean, there's like multiple different challenges, but it ended on the trivia thing. So there's
We were winning by a lot before the trivia meeting.
that trivia is tough. Like every year, like the team that's in first place or every time it does not always win. Which I told you, like even though we were winning, it's hard to. Yeah, it's just tough. Hi, Reed.
Was it like Matei on the bus said that it was all about like Taylor Swift?
That was one of the categories. There was the Taylor Swift category.
And one of them was about Miss Pio.
Well, she was one that created the Taylor Swift category. So it wasn't about her. She was the one that wrote that category. And then I did one that was about games and stuff like that. So there was just different categories. People got
What was
to
the
choose
question?
from.
What was like
You just let her sell it.
what was the stars? Who did the stars?
I'd have to go back and look. I only remember the Taylor Swift one because it was the first time I'd ever heard those questions.
There was also the Disney one.
Yes, that was the Disney movie one. That was
That's-
Mr.
that's-
Scrooge Must Be Cut.
And that's the one we lost. Because we put an answer that we
Yeah, it happens. Most of you have submitted this. I think there's only like 5 kids left in here who have not.
yeah.
If you have not, it's fine. It's not due till this weekend. I'm just
Finished it on Monday.
make
I
sure you
finished
submit.
it on
I
last.
have a remind going out at 3:30 today telling you to make sure you submit it during best if you've not submitted it yet. Again, just trying to help you so you don't leave it for this weekend. Trying to be nice to you. For tomorrow, this is what I have cut yours down to. Getting rid of the ones you did not want. I will pick 3 from this 5, and these are the ones that you guys sort of told me you thought were somewhat interesting. Where it says, how important are friends and social groups impacting behavior and grades? How important is popular or fitting in at junior high with behavior and grades? How much of an impact is social influencers? Should a kid's behavior or class disruptions be considered part of their grade? And should today's kids care, know about political topics and world events? Of those 5 I'm looking at for you guys tomorrow, any other feedback you want to give me for those 5 as I'm looking at them? Because I figured, and then tomorrow we'll do the talkie. You do have the, it's not up there yet, but you will have the response question survey thing as your only homework. So like for me, the only homework you're going to have is finishing Outsiders, doing that in class, and then IXL as long as it's submitted. Alex?
I think 5 should go.
That today's kids care about political topics?
No.
Apparently they don't all agree. And it's like, that's why we get to the vote. And so if it's on there and not enough people vote for it, it doesn't happen anyway. So just because it's there doesn't guarantee it, it just means it's an option. Reed?
I think 2 should go because we basically already talked about that.
Could be. If that's one that, I mean, no one's really saying anything, I can cut 2.
Should go.
All right, 2 is gone. Not a problem. And all right, that'll be what we do tomorrow. Hey, you. I know. And then you're just staring at the screen. I guess hypnotizing you. So I was going to have you turn it off or figure out what you were doing. All right. Let's see. We get to talk a little bit more about death today because I want to talk about the thing. Tonight, finish chapter 11, which is not very long. Over the weekend, chapter 12, and then that's all we have as far as that goes. And then let's see. Yesterday we finished. Got close to finishing. No, you guys didn't finish on your own. Did that. Then. Yeah. Oh yeah. Creepy. This is what I wanted to talk about. So we finished with Dally Winston's scene, and then the class ended with this one. So this is why I sort of wanted to go back and touch on it. With what Dally does. What time of day is it that he does this?
Night.
So middle of the night. And where is it that this is going to occur? In the empty lot. So in the empty lot, he has anywhere in that empty lot he can run to. But he specifically ran to one spot, which was directly below the light post. The reason being, he wants to make sure that he can be seen. So there's Dally. He comes running in. It's kind of hard to see him. What do we know about his gun?
It's not loaded.
Do his friends know that?
Yes.
Do the police know that?
No.
That's going to be one of our big ones. So then police show up, and they get out, and then he pulls his gun and points it at them, and they're like, oh, we also have toys just like that. So then they point their guns at him. He does the fake boom boom. They do the real boom boom. And then he's like, hee hee. And they go boom, boom, boom. And then he's no more. So with this scene that pops up from his choice to do this, why does Dally make this particular choice? Aiden?
Because now that Johnny's dead, he has like no happiness left.
Is correct. That worked for me. Callie?
Johnny was his gold.
Johnny definitely was his goal. Reese?
Is this considered suicide or is it like
Suicide by cop.
It's called suicide by cop.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of it because he does not, well, let's back up. His friends know the gun's not loaded. Do the other greasers like the Shepherds know that? No. And that's the big part of it is that he's sad. And Dally's not good at these emotion things. And with him being sad and his best friend, the only thing he cares about dying, Dally wants to die. But he can't commit suicide because that's not the legend he has created. So he has to go out in what he thinks the coolest way possible is. And what's the coolest way for a greaser to die? So that's what he does. But at the same time, he wants to say goodbye to his friends. He's not a complete jerk. That's why he calls all of his friends to show up. Because he easily could have just robbed the store, gone out, and then gotten shot and be done. But he deliberately takes a moment to go and call his friends. He was like, do, come watch me die. And they're like, what? And he hangs up, and then they show up. That's his way of connecting to them. He wants Ponyboy and Soda and Dairy, and he wants them to know what he was doing. And that's his way of saying goodbye. Because again, he is not good at emotions or sharing of things. And so that's where you have this big final scene where he wanted to go out in the coolest way possible. Storky, I cover whatever you were going to ask me. I apologize.
To a brownie.
He had a big reputation. He wanted to there's records and stuff to get released, and he wanted to keep it because he was proud of it.
Because if he ended up doing something else, like jumping off a bridge or who knows what, then people would have been like, oh, he's so sweet. He cared about his friends. And he was like, I don't care about anybody. Although deep down we know he does definitely care. Right after this happens, no. Right after that happens, what happens to Ponyboy?
He faints.
He just goes, they go boom, he goes ah, and he goes flat onto the ground. Let me cover why that happens and he does this whole passing out thing. Well, obviously one part of it is what happened to him earlier. Got kicked in the head and got a concussion. But realize that's not the end of it. Do you know how much time has passed from that opening scene of him walking out of the movie theater to right now?
2 days.
7 days.
That's
It
crazy.
went from a Thursday over the course of a week to that next Friday.
What?
Now, do you have to realize what all happened in 7 days? Allow me to recount for you real quick. This is what happened to Ponyboy in 7 days. Walking home from the movie, he gets jumped by a bunch of socias who hold a knife to his neck and attempt to try to kill him. And then that next night, he goes to a movie theater, picks up a bunch of hot girls, walks the hot girls halfway home, gets sort of stopped by their boyfriends who try to beat him up, and then falls asleep in a park, in the empty lot, then goes home, gets slapped by his brother, then from there goes to a park. In the park, gets attacked by those socias again, ends up getting drowned and almost passing out, wakes up to find out his best friend killed somebody, then runs away for the first time ever, gets on a train, rides a train to a whole new place, ends up going to this new place and living in a church for an entire week. While there, ends up smoking a whole bunch of cigarettes and getting sick, eating more bologna than he knows what to do, and then ends up going from there and having Dally come and find him. They go to a Dairy Queen. At the Dairy Queen, they decide to turn themselves in. From there, they go back to the church. Church is on fire, runs into there, saves children by throwing them out of a window, best part of the book. From there, the church falls on top of them. He has his best friend get back broken, and he gets punched in the back by Dally, which makes him pass out. Wakes up in the hospital, finds out that he might get separated from his family, ends up reconnecting with his brother, going home from there. Then next day, he ends up going and getting into a giant rumble. In the rumble, gets kicked in the head. From the rumble, goes to the hospital, watches his best friend die right in front of him. Stay cold. Then ends up walking home, getting picked up by some random creepy guy in a car, ends up going into the house, getting confronted by his family again, has this other guy call and say, hey, meet me in an empty lot, goes to the empty lot and watches another person die in the same night, all in a single week. For most of you,
You should be
any
out there.
one of those events would make your Snapchat story. He had all of those happen in a single week. At some point, your brain goes, no, and just turns off. And that's what his brain does. At some point, when he watches Dally die, his brain just goes, you're done, and turns off. He's like, ah, and just goes down. And that's his brain's way of trying to protect him. Reese?
So, if you say it happened all in just 1 week, then how did they, it was like a 1 week at the point where they, Johnny killed the Soch, but then you said he stayed he stayed a whole week in the...
They were in the church for 4 to 5 days.
So that's part of that 1 week?
Mm-hmm. Because they...
You just had a lot more fingers in it.
well, it wasn't for the week. That was for each event that was happening as they were going through.
Oh.
That was not for the days.
Oh.
Way
Yeah,
too many
'cause-
events.
yeah.
Multiple things happening per day. Matei?
So, I have a question about, how long does the whole books take? Does that take about 2 weeks, 10 days?
So at this point, because now it gets a little bit iffy, because now we're going to have to jump ahead. There's the trial, and then there's him having trouble in school. So then it sort of expands. Up to this point, it's been a week, and then after that, I don't know. It gets kind of fuzzy in the book. He doesn't really give exact dates. So I'm guessing over the course of another month or so, probably happening. Jojo?
So in Fortnite terms, a bunch of people got hit for 200 in the head.
Works for me. Made for a very busy time. Then this is where he eventually wakes up, and they talk about him having this sickness where he's laying in bed and he woke up in the hospital and was having all kinds of issues. Part of that is concussion, part of that's going to be depression, and part of that is just when you're a kid and you have trauma, your brain tries to protect you from trauma, and your brain tries to hide things from you. One of the big things his brain hides from him is who killed Bob. Because who killed Bob? Johnny did. But what does Ponyboy convince himself?
Johnny's not dead.
Yeah. But if Johnny's not dead and Johnny didn't kill Bob, there was only one other greaser there who could have killed Bob. So who had to have killed Bob? So Ponyboy convinces himself he's the one that killed Bob. Realize how screwed up your life has to be if your happy place is you being a murderer. If you're like, oh, my life would be so much better if I was just a murderer, that's where Ponyboy is. If he can convince himself that he killed Bob, life would be better. That should not be a place that you get to. And that's where he starts to struggle in here. And then he also has a big worry that he talks to Soda about when he was in the hospital. What was his worry?
That he didn't ask for dairy.
That he never... Why does he worry about that?
Because then Derry might feel bad.
Because now he finally cares about Derry again. And that was why from the beginning of the book, he was like, I hate Derry and he hates me, and now all of a sudden we're doing this bonding, connecting thing. And he was afraid that while he was in and out of consciousness, he never asked for Derry because that would be a huge insult. So that's why he gets all worried about this Derry thing. And then, oh, dang it. I guess I don't have to put that up there now, we already covered that question. The gift that Johnny leaves for Ponyboy at the hospital was
Gone with the Wind.
So this is where that book comes back, and when we get to chapter 12, we're going to see the book again, and there's one more big thing that's going to happen with that book, the Gone with the Wind. But this was that final gift that he ends up handing over to, or Johnny passes along to Ponyboy, and then Ponyboy has it, and in chapter 12, we're going to get to whatever the last thing that's going to connect with this book, that's going to sort of help bring the book, our Outsiders book, full circle. All right. Let's get to page 161 and do a little bit of reading together, because it's not very long, and then we can do more talking.
When are we gonna have the quiz?
Next Tuesday. Monday, I want to talk about ending of the book, because there's some big things that happen in chapter 12. I'm going to do a little bit of reviewy thing to get you guys ready for the test, and then we'll do the test on Tuesday. As long as I don't think the test is super hard. I wrote almost all of this test. So as long as you've read and been paying attention and understand things, you should do fine on the test. I'm not trying to crush you with this one. Hi. Oh, I was going to call on Crawford. Crawford!
Are we gonna have like practice questions?
Probably not as much for this one, but I'll see what I can do. Storky,
Will this be a long test?
I'm aiming for between 30 and 35 questions.
Bruh.
So it should be around 50 points. Well, here's my goal. If you've read a whole book, I want to make it worthwhile to you. And so I don't want to give you a smaller one like the quizzes that are only going to be 15 questions. So I want to try to make it a bigger thing so those of you who read it, you're like, oh, I achieved a thing. But at the same time, I don't want to... My goal is I have questions in there that separate between kids who watched movie versus book. Because I've watched movie. It's a great movie. If you finish the book, coming up in December, we're going to have a day after school where you can stay and watch the movie with us. And it's going to be a little icky because there'll be Globetrotters there. But we're going to have like a thing where we all get together and like get to hang out together and watch it and stuff like that, if that's the thing you want to do. But the movie's great. But there are definitely things in movie that are not in book and things in book that are not in movie. Believe me.
Will there be analogy questions?
Probably. I do like analogy
Will there
questions.
be like the same questions that were on the past quizzes?
No, the test, what I'm looking to do is use a lot of your short story stuff. Like you're going to have to know internal conflicts, external conflicts from the story, figure out settings that occurred. Because I like you guys not forgetting things, so I try to mash them up together. Derby?
Could anybody go to the movie, or is it just people who read the book?
I don't know. It's a good question. Could be anybody. Why? You like a little puppy you want to bring? Just sit there and pup.
Of course. My little puppy's big.
Alex?
Is there gonna be grammar checks like in your
No,
other quizzes?
not on this test. I do grammar checks on your little quizzes, but on the big test, it's just Outsiders.
Okay.
No. Alex again.
Is it gonna be multiple choice?
The multiple choice questions are,
Okay.
but not all. There'll also be short answer, and there's also matching. Because I'm going to give you a section. What I'm writing now is a section where you have like a major thing that happened and a list of characters, and you have to match the character to the major thing that they did in the story. Or there's going to be a part where there's like settings, and you have to figure out what major scene happened at that setting. So I figure as long as you've read and understood it, it should go pretty quickly. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Hi, Derby again.
Will Johnny seem being death, or the thing he did would be killing?
One more time.
For Johnny, would it be him killing Bob? or
Are you
would it
asking
be-
the question I put on the test?
Yeah, like,
Yes, we'll go with your first one. That you looks like you nailed it perfectly.
Okay, great.
Hi, Felipe.
Will there be 2 attempts?
I think so.
Well, 5. It's kind of hard to get 35 questions twice.
I figure the same thing. Storky.
Okay, so this isn't about the quiz.
Uh-huh.
Like, the Pony Boy also had things in it, like loss of blood, because it said that he was like wandering around for hours, and then he gets in the car and he's like, "You're bleeding." And he's
Yeah,
like,
I'm guessing that is from the getting kicked in the head thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can find the right page. Wrong book. Yeah, so I've got a feeling it's the getting kicked in the head thing probably does not go well. Hi, Picky.
So, I lost my train of thought.
161. Let's go from there.
Yes, sir.
I had to stay in bed a whole week after that. That bugged me. I'm not the kind that can just lie around looking at the ceiling all the time. I read most of the time and drew pictures. I read most of the time and drew pictures. One day, I started flipping through one of Soda's old yearbooks and came across a picture that seemed vaguely familiar. Not even when I read the name, Robert Sheldon, did it hit me who it was. And then I realized it was Bob. I took a real good long look at it. The picture didn't look a whole lot like the Bob I remembered, but Nobody ever looks a whole lot like his picture in a yearbook anyway. He'd been a sophomore that year. That would make him about 18 when he died. Yeah, he was good looking even then, with a grin that reminded me of Soda's, a kind of reckless grin. He had been a handsome black-haired boy with dark eyes, maybe brown like Soda's, maybe dark blue like the Shepherd boys, maybe he had black eyes like Johnny. I'd never given Bob much thought. I hadn't had time to think. But that day I wondered about him. What was he like? I mean, I knew he liked to pick fights, had the usual soc belief that living on the west side made you Mr. Super Tough, looked good in dark wine-colored sweaters, and was proud of his rings. But what about the Bob Sheldon that Cherry Valance knew? She was a smart girl. She didn't like him just because he was good-looking, sweet, friendly, stands out from the crowd. That's what she had said. A real person, the best buddy a guy ever had, kept trying to make somebody stop him. Randy had told me that. Did he have a kid brother who idolized him? Maybe a big brother who kept bugging him not to be so wild? His parents let him run wild because they loved him too much or too little. Did they hate us now? I hope they hated us. That they weren't full of that pity the victims of environment junk the social workers kept handing Curly Shepherd every time he got sent off to reform school. I'd rather have anybody's hate than their pity. But then maybe they understood, like Cherry Valance. I looked at Bob's picture, and I could begin to see the person we had killed. A reckless, hot-tempered boy, cocky, scared stiff at the same time. 21? Yeah. I didn't look up. I thought it was the doctor. He'd been coming over to see me almost every day, although he didn't do much except talk to me. There's a guy here to see you? Says he knows you. Something in Derry's voice made me look up, and his eyes were hard. His name's Randy? Yeah, I know him. Do you want to see him? Yeah, I shrugged. Sure, why not? A few guys from school had dropped by to see me. I have quite a few friends at school, even if I am younger than most of them, and I don't talk much, but that's what they are. School friends, not buddies. I've been glad to see them, but it bothered me because we live in kind of a lousy neighborhood. Our house isn't real great. It's run down looking and everything, and the inside's kind of poor looking too, even though for a bunch of boys, we do a pretty good job of house cleaning. Most of my friends at school come from good homes. Not filthy rich like the Socias, but middle class anyway. It was a funny thing. It bugged me about my friends seeing our house, but I couldn't have cared less about what Randy thought. Hi, Pony Boy. Randy looked uncomfortable standing in the doorway. That was the best I could do for trying to find a Soc. All of them seemed to have pictures of people holding money in their hand, and that seemed to work pretty well for Randy. Hi, Randy. Have a seat if you can find one. Books were lying all over everything. He pushed a couple off a chair and sat down. How you feeling? Cherry told me your name was on the school bulletin. I'm okay. You can't really miss my name on any kind of bulletin. I think what bulletin just means like absence list is the best I can figure out.
What does
I
that
have
mean?
no idea what a bulletin is. He still looked uncomfortable, although he tried to grin. You want to smoke? I offered him a weed. Again, that means cigarette, not marijuana. And he shook his head. No thanks. Pony Boy? One reason I came here was to see if you were okay, but we gotta go see the judge tomorrow. Yeah, I said, lighting a cigarette. I know. Hey, holler if you see one of my brothers coming. I'll catch it for smoking in bed. My dad says for me to tell the truth, and nobody can get hurt. He's kind of upset about all this. I mean, my dad's a good guy and everything. He's better than most. And I kind of let him down. Being mixed up in all this, I just looked at him. That was the dumbest remark I'd ever heard anyone make. He thought he was mixed up in this? He didn't kill anyone. He didn't get his head busted in a rumble. It wasn't his buddy that was shot down under a streetlight. Besides, what did he have to lose? His old man was rich. He could pay whatever fine there was for being drunk and picking a fight. I wouldn't mind getting fined, Randy said, but I feel lousy about the old man. And it's the first time I've felt anything in a long time. The only thing I'd felt in a long time was being scared. Scared stiff. I'd put off thinking about the judge and the hearing for as long as I could. Soda and Derry didn't like to talk about it either, so We were all silently counting off the days while I was sick, counting the days that we had left together. But with Randy sticking solidly to the subject, it was impossible to think about anything else. My cigarette started trembling. I guess your folks feel kind of awful about it too. My parents are dead. I live here with just dairy and soda, my brothers. I took a long drag on my cigarette. That's what's worrying me. If the judge decides dairy isn't a good guardian or something, I'm liable to get stuck in a home somewhere. That's the rotten part of this deal. Derry is a good guardian. He makes me study, knows where I am, who I'm with all the time. I mean, we don't get along so great sometimes, but he keeps me out of trouble, or dead. My father didn't yell at me as much as he does. I didn't know that. Randy looked worried. He really did. A soch even. Worried because some kid greaser was on his way to a foster home or something. That was really funny. I don't mean funny. You know what I mean. Listen to me, Pony. You didn't do anything. It was your friend Johnny that had the knife. I had it. I stopped him. He was looking at me strangely. I had the knife. I killed Bob. Randy shook his head. No, I saw it. You were almost drowned. It was that black-headed guy that had the switchblade. Bob scared him into doing it. I saw it. I was bewildered. I killed him. I had a switchblade. I was scared they were going to beat me up. No, kid, it was your friend. The one who died in the... Johnny's not dead! My voice was shaking. Johnny's not dead! Hey, Randy? Derry stuck his head in the door. I think you better go now. Sure, Randy said. He was still looking at me, kind of funny. I'll see you around, Pony. Don't you ever say anything to him about Johnny. I heard Derry say in a low voice as they went out. He's still pretty racked up mentally and emotionally. The doc said he'd get over it if we give him time. I swallowed hard and blinked. He was just like all the rest of the Socs, cold-blooded mean. Johnny didn't have anything to do with Bob's getting killed. Ponyboy Curtis, you put out that cigarette. Okay. I put it out. I ain't gonna go to sleep smoking, Derry. If you make me stay in bed, there ain't anywhere else I can smoke. You are not gonna die if you don't get a smoke. But if that bed catches on fire, you will. You couldn't make it to the door through that mess. Golly, I can't pick it up and Soda doesn't, so I guess that leaves you. He was giving me one of those looks. All right. That don't leave you. Maybe Soda'll straighten it up a little. Or maybe you can be a little neater, huh, little buddy? He'd never called me that before. Soda was the only one that he ever called little buddy. Sure, I said. I'll be more careful. Chapter 12. Out of curiosity, how many of you guys have already finished the book? No, never mind. So I guess I don't need to keep reading.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Cool.
When you read.
Yes. Literally, you're literally him.
I have another quick question. Did anybody ever use the audiobooks on there?
No.
Bro, I forgot about that.
I use it for
Am I the only one?
That's fine.
I use it sometimes.
That's fine. What did you think of the person's voice?
Horrible.
I mean, it was fine.
I was
The
just
person that I was listening to didn't do chapter 9 for some reason.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
one
just
of the
chapter-
videos said it like it was unavailable.
I'll have to go back and check. Sometimes they take down the videos, and I have to go back in there and re-find new videos and relink them every once in a while. So it did happen. So I was just curious to see what the voices comparison was from there. Unfortunately, class is going to be over now, so I have to let you guys go.
No.
Hey, we get to do a whole bunch of talking tomorrow. Actually, no. You guys get to do a whole bunch of talking tomorrow.
At least
I get
like
to
the
listen
voices
to you guys
are
talking.
yours, but at least I can put it in 2 times speed.
Well, I do limit them to only talking twice.
Except for that guy.
Maybe you should put that as one of our future things that go on there about kids who do them answers. See? And then we... Hi, random confused kid that